Okay, what's up guys? Go through a quick tutorial on how to create patches. This is specifically for GRS Patches. He's modified his license here recently to allow people to come in and make modifications, and he goes through that on his page here on what is permitted, what is not allowed. So we're just going to go through real quick on if you guys want to create your own patches. It's actually a pretty simple process. If you're completely brand new to this, we'll go through on how to do that exactly. So on Steam, you'll just search in Arma Reforger unless you have your tools already visible, and you'll want to install the Arma Reforger tools. Once that's done, you can launch it up and you'll get this first window here, the workbench launcher. A couple things before we start into your own project. So you'll do add existing project. Okay, so real quick, because I forgot this on the first part of the video, to get to your add-ons, when you're adding it into the projects here, you're gonna go to Documents, and it's My Games, Arma Reforger, and then Add-ons, and they're right in here. If your Arma Reforger sits somewhere else in your documents, you don't go to the workbench. Just go right to Arma Reforger and then Add-ons, and that's where everything's going to be listed. And you will need to go through your list of mods that are installed. Again, that's another thing. You got to make sure you have these installed on your computer and have them downloaded first. So you usually just do that through Arma Reforger, and you can go through in there and download it. So you'll want to add GRS Patches. You'll want to do GRS Apparel, and you'll want to do Zelix Characters. Once that's done, and I'll just show that here real quick. Once you choose one of them, just do patches. You'll just open it up and you do this addon.gproj file, or JPROG, I guess. I don't know if that's actually the correct way to say that. Anyway, so once that's done, it'll pop up in your list of projects, and if there are other people's projects, it'll show this lock, right? You can't modify their stuff. So then you'll do your add project, create new project. You can name it whatever you want to. So like test patches, which I had actually already done that, but we'll just go through it, it's fine. You'll find Zelix Characters. You'll do GRS Patches, and then you will look for GRS Apparel, which, apologize, I've got a bunch of other stuff that's already in my list here. So right there. And you'll do create. The reason we're adding in GRS Apparel isn't so much, you don't need that actually to launch it. You can do all your own stuff. You could do patches, just patches, if you want to. The reason I'm putting in patches and Zelix Characters, because you can't modify those. If you want to modify or do extra textures for his stuff, for apparel, you need to get his specific permission. You can just reach him on his Discord. But the reason we put it in here is so when we test our patches here in a little bit, it'll have his clothing, and we can go in and put it on there to test. Alright, so under the patches, we'll just go straight from the top. He's got his circle patches and rectangle, and then flag slots. Flag slots are locked to the upper shoulder. Rectangles and circle patches can be put on the lower sections. So let's just start with the circle patch. And in here you can grab pretty much like any of these. It's really not going to matter. So let's just grab one of these Reaper ones, and you'll right click on it. You do duplicate. Do not override. Do the duplicate, and it'll be to whatever your project is named. And we're just going to do test circle, and then the same thing here in the circle patches. We're coming to the data, and again you can grab any of these little texture balls. So we'll grab the Reaper one, and you can't copy any of the actual specific textures. So it's just these little EMAT files, or texture ball as I call them. I don't really know if that's actually the correct definition, but we'll go with it. Terminology, not definition. Anyway, you'll duplicate that, name it whatever you want to. Usually it's better not to actually use spaces. Underscores or dashes are preferred when it comes to coding, so it might make it a little more stable if you don't use a space. Alright, so then I'm going to grab my texture, and what I recommend for his or really I do this with just about anything. You can grab one of his sizes, the size of these files here. And I've noticed he does a couple different ones. There's a 20 by 48, 20 by 48s, and then there was some that are like 1024s. That just means it's going to be lower res. It'll be smaller file. It's fine. I think it looks pretty good either way. You could probably even cut that in half and it would still look pretty decent. So it just depends on how big of a size that you want it to be. Other than that, what I'll also do is come in here and copy part of this, just so I get the exact, I just do like a screen grab, and I'll put that in. I use paint.net. You can really do whatever you want to, or whatever program you'd like to use to modify. If I choose the right selection tool here, and I just get it to where I want it to be. And then I will grab my patch and put it over that, making sure it fits to that same space. He might even have, I've not honestly looked, but there might be a blank. No, there's not. So you could do that with any of them, and then you would just want to resize, because it's going to be a little bit smaller. So I usually resize it before I put mine on. And then that way I can paste it right over that, and it's going to be the right size. So that's just, I wouldn't reuse his texture, because otherwise it's just kind of pointless. Unless you're adding something onto it, that's fine too. I don't think he has any issue with that. I think he allows us to modify what he has included. Yeah, textures. So, edit and modify. But I just use that as my base. So once I add my patch on, you want to come down to where your test section here in your assets, where your texture ball is going to be. And add that in. You just drag and drop yes to all when it pops up. Now, one thing too with some of his patches I've noticed, some of them he modifies the import type, and I'll explain that in a second. Some he doesn't. Some, like, it depends on, and it just depends on how it's going to look, if it's too bright or not. So on here, I'm not going to modify this, and I'll modify it on the flag patches, and I'll show that here in a second. So all you need to do is open this up, your texture ball. You'll grab your circle, drag it over, and then there we go. Now, if it looks too bright to you, what you can do is you'll double click on the image here, the EDDS file that the PNG created. You'll go to import settings, change to this color space. It's always going to be to linear to sRGB, and you can re-import that, and then you can see here where it's darkened it up a lot. So it really just depends on what you want it to look like. If you think it's too bright or not too bright, so on and so forth. I'm going to leave mine to linear, because with it being all black, a lot of the stuff kind of gets cut out. So we'll leave it at that for a second, and we'll see how that looks. So then we're going to save that. You could just do Control S, or you could do Control Shift S, and that saves everything. So once we're done with that, once you're satisfied with how this looks, I recommend to delete the PNG out. Leave the EDDS, but delete your PNG. That's going to make your file size of the mod itself smaller. Alright, so that's your circle patch done on the texture ball. And you'll come over to this, you'll edit your prefab, you'll look for the mesh object. Hello. That's fine, we'll just leave it like that. Bring this up a little bit. And then down here, you go to your test, your assets, circle patches, data, drag your texture ball over. I always put it there. I don't know if it really matters if you put it there or not. I've seen other people do it that way. I've seen other people skip that. And then you want to go to your base loadout cloth component. And then down here, you'll need to add in your worn overrides on both of those slots, a little plus right there, and drag your texture ball to both. And then you can save that, you can close it, and then there you go. Your patch is pretty much, your patch here creation is done. You've modified and edited that. Now, for simplicity's sake, to add this into the arsenal, we're just going to use his config. So you'll go to configs, entity, US. You're going to duplicate that, or sorry, no, you're going to override on your inventory, override to test. And then in here you'll see his GRS patches. At the bottom of it, just open up entities, scroll down, wherever you, I honestly always just put them at the bottom. You go to duplicate, and then you'll hit browse. Actually, there's a better way to do that. Hit search, because then that's going to pull up everything over here too. And you just go to where you've got it, your prefab circle patches, and drag that right there. And then you're good. Now, if you do want to name like your patch, it would also be under the, no, it's not under that. It's under the inventory item component. So here, this is where you would change the name of it. The name of the patch and the description. So we're just going to call it test patch for now. And I always just put those in both slots. Save that. Alright, so we have finished one patch. Now we'll go through the rectangle patch. Rectangle patch is going to be exactly the same way, pretty much. Just come in here, duplicate, test rectangle. And then the same thing for the assets. And again, it really doesn't matter which one we're going to grab. Okay, and it's going to be the same thing here. I've got my test one that I've already done for a different patch. We'll just slap that in here. Go through this here pretty quick. Boom, texture ball's made. Save that. Under rectangle patches, we're going to open that up. Inventory item. We're just going to rename it real quick. Test rectangle. Save it. Mesh object. I'm going to grab that. Put the little ball there. And then base loadout. And see, he's already got this one with the overrides for the other patches. Because that's just an override of the original patch that he first made. So we'll save that. And then we're good there. Now, the flags, I've noticed, are going to be slightly different. We'll add in the config last. For the flags, I've noticed his flags use normal mapping. And I'm going to show you real quick, too, just how I do that with normal mapping. So again, it doesn't really matter. We'll just grab any texture ball here. Let's just grab whatever. Let's, I know which one. Let me grab one I know is going to have the normal mapping. Okay, we'll grab this one. We'll duplicate it. Test flag. And then we'll grab the prefab flag. And his flags, to make it, which is really, really nice that he did it this way. So instead of it being 2 items, it's just the 1 item. You don't have to do multiple flags. And it reverses it. So if it's on your right shoulder, this is the image you see. And if it's on your left shoulder, this is the image you see. So like if you were wanting to add other US flags, I do believe you need the texture to be... No, it don't. You don't have to do it backwards. I was thinking for a second you had to have it backwards, but I don't. No, you don't. It just automatically reverses it. So keep that in mind if you are adding other textures here, that if you put it on your other shoulder, if you put it on your right shoulder in-game, it will reverse the image. Alright. Done blabbing. I don't think I grabbed the flag, did I? I did not. Let's just grab this one. Duplicate. Test flag. Now the reason you might want to do this just depends on your milsim and how you have your guys' uniform set up, but like sometimes you have your company patch here, and that's what we use it for. So that's what my company patch is gonna be, was a test that I had done. So in your assets for your flag patches, Again, it's the same way I've done this with all of them. I always just go to one of his textures, grab it so I get the right size and everything. I modify the color some if I have to, and then I put my image over it. Minimize the wrong thing. And then also, so I've created the normal mapping for it, which I also just did through my paint.net. I use a normal mapping add-on, and it's pretty dang easy. If the color looks different to you for the normal mapping, like default like that, right? But then all you got to do is re-invert your colors, and it gets it to the same color where it changes the indentation of the patch itself. So it depends on if you want it to look like it's coming out on some parts or going, with the indent. So I'll just drag that over too. On the normal mapping, the way it imports is fine. If you're using the normal mapping, I would recommend making sure you do change the import to the sRGB. Re-import that. Once that's done, delete your PNGs. Alright, and then on the texture ball, you're going to put your new texture there, and you're going to put your new normal there. And then that way it all matches up. And I'll show you here in a second what that looks like. Close everything out here. Okay. And then you go to your flags, edit the prefab again, mesh, drag your new texture ball over it. This one you'll have to add in. Sometimes you'll just have to add those dropped. You just hit the plus right there. That's all you got to do. And then we're gonna change that real quick to test flag. Okay, and then there you go. So like I'm saying, so if this is gonna be on your right arm, it's gonna be inverted. So if you want the item, the flag patch to show up, not inverted but reversed, or mirrored really, if you want it to be correct on your right arm, then you would want to make sure you flip the image, not vertically but horizontally, before you add that texture. So that's just how that's gonna work. And then we'll add in these last spots here. Duplicate. Let's just add in the test flag there, and then the test rectangle there. So now you want to see if your stuff looks right in game and make sure that it shows up correctly in the arsenal. And again, his config, that's just the US arsenal. All these items are just US. If you want to do something different, that's a whole different process. So we're just skip that for today. So you'll go to your world editor. Let me back it up. Your editors, go to world editor. Once this kind of finishes up, you'll do load, the little folder icon. You can load world. Just go to Game Master, Arland or Eden, either one. Doesn't really matter. And then you want to test it in here. Next to play, there's this drop down. I always just do, depending on what I'm testing, I do play in full screen. And you hit the play, and then it's going to put you right into Game Master. Don't hit your escape while you're in here. That'll just back you right out. There's supposed to be a way that you can change your key binding, so that won't happen. But we're just going to pass that up. Alright. So let's just spawn in the arsenal. And then create your character. Always just drop everything real quick. And out of habit, I'm really used to hitting escape. Don't hit escape. Just hit tab again, or hit that down there. Either. Again, arsenal or hitting escape is going to pull you out. So then we'll go through here and grab any of his Krythe G3 shirts. Put that on. Let's just have some pants on, because pants, important. And then we'll look for the patches, which are right here. Just drag them over. Well, it really doesn't matter where you drag them to. Just drag them to your shirt. Actually, I lied. Make sure you put it in your pants first, then drag it back over to your shirt. Otherwise, it won't pop up right away. And then the flag. We'll bring both of those, just so I can show you. Alright. Yeah, and then we're just gonna go back into this and use Arma Vision for a second. Let's remove the name tags, remove the grids, remove that, hit that, and drop that. Alright, so, like I said, that's gonna be reversed over here. That's normal. If you want it on your right side, then reverse the image before you import it into here. But that's what, you know, everything turned out pretty good, color-wise. And that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, and then the last step is just going to be uploading it. You go to Publish to Workshop, go to Workbench, Publish to Workshop. You just name it in test page, or test, whatever you want it to be. You have to add in a preview image. It can be whatever you want it to be, really. I think you have to have one, though. You have to have at least one category selected. Always just do characters. And then you use the Arma public license no derivatives. That's for his stuff that he wants us to use. In your summary, you know, you'd want to type in something, and then per his custom license that he has, you know, you want to give credit to GRS. So, you know, I always just type in something along the original works are all property of GRS, or something along those lines. You know, just give some credit there. Alright, and that, nice little typo there. That wraps it up. If you guys have any questions at all, just give me a shout. I'm around on his Discord, or other people are pretty helpful over there. It's a good group of people. So, yeah. Just let me know. You guys have a good one.